So, the last TV show that I binge watched in 2024 was the second season of Breaking Bad, which, fittingly enough, had Kristen Ritter in the guest cast as the character of Jane Margulies, the girlfriend of Jesse, who ends up dying towards the end of the series. Anyway, I think that's kind of fitting because for the first TV show that I ended up binge watching in 2025 is the first season of Jessica Jones, which also starred Ritter in the main role of Jessica Jones. Now, it's fair to say I'm fairly behind the curve on a lot of these Marvel shows. Now, this particular one came from the branch of Marvel shows that, before Disney Plus materialised, uh, a lot of the Marvel shows were on Netflix, especially ones that fitted into the MCU. You had the likes of Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and The Defenders. And the first season of Jessica Jones dropped on Netflix on the 20th of November 2015. So it's just under 10 years now that this has been out, so I am well behind the curve on it. But finally got around to watching it. Now, Jessica Jones, at least the first season, focuses around the character of Jessica Jones, played by Kristen Ritter, a an individual gifted with kind of superpowers of like super jumping, flight, enhanced strength and the like, and she's mostly a private investigator trying to put her life back together after a series of traumatic events, namely being mind controlled by a villain named Kilgrave and in the process killing a woman. She's moved to Hell's Kitchen to try and kind of fit her life back together. However, when it turns out that Kilgrave might be resurfacing after some time in the darkness, Jessica must put down, bring up her fists, and find a way to stop Kilgrave once and for all. Now, this particular season has, as I said, Kristen Ritter in the main role as Jessica Jones, and she's brilliant in this. There's also the introduction of Mike Colter as Luke Cage, a character who would eventually get his own spin off series. There's Jessica's daughter, adoptive sister, Patricia Walker, played by Rachel Taylor. I'm just going through the main cast here, but there's also Will Travell as a soldier named Will Simpson, a soldier originally sent to kill Jessica, but eventually manages to break his programming and begins a romantic relationship with Patricia. There's Hope Schlottman, played by Erin Moriarty, a young girl who, in the first episode, Jessica was assigned to kind of track her down by her parents after she seemingly went dark. However, while she does manage to reunite them, bit of a spoiler alert here, she ends up killing her parents and ending up in prison once again, mostly due to Kilgrave's programming. There's Jessica's neighbour, Malcolm DeCass, played by Ika Darville, who starts off the series as kind of a drug addict, but mostly once again under Kilgrave's command, getting addicted to drugs. However, he eventually manages to overcome his programming and even ends up joining a group that was set up along with Jessica in order for kind of victims of Kilgrave. There's also Jerry Hogarth, played by former Matrix actor Carol Ann Moss. She's kind of a lawyer who hires Jessica in order to do some things for her, mainly to try and find evidence on her ex-wife so she can get a clean divorce, so she can have a clean relationship with her new lover. And then, of course, the other big cast is Kilgrave himself. Kevin Kilgrave. I believe in the comics he was Zebediah Kilgrave, but anyway, Kilgrave, played by David Tennant. And he's pretty much a highlight of this series. Now, I know that David Tennant has done villain roles before, like in Centurions 2, but for me, I mainly know him for protagonistic roles like the Doctor in Doctor Who and also Crowley in Good Omens. So for me, it's fun here to see David Tennant go full villain and just have fun being the villain. But here's the thing, he has fun being the villain, but I don't think he's hammy as a villain. Because for me, ham in terms of villain implies that there's a certain degree of comedy to the villain. But for me, there's nothing comedic about Kilgrave. I mean, yes, he does have these funny lines, but for me, this guy's terrifying. Like, this really gives a a point for me on how good David Tennant's range is as an actor. Just, you can see him in these completely dark moments, even just ordering children to go and hide in their closet forever. And like, children should be not seen or heard. Just, to me, he's chilling as a villain. There are also other characters, like there's Claire Temple, once again played by Rosario Dawson, which does provide a link back to Daredevil. I think she only shows up in the last episode, but still, she's there. And there's also Dorothy Walker, Patricia's mother and Jessica's adopted mother, who, played by Rebecca De Mornay, who she's shown to be somewhat abusive in that she forced Patricia into this life of being the kind of celebrity, I think a reality TV star, but then after encounters with Jessica and Patricia, she does start to back off, and you do gather her as the overbearing parent, but I think she does quite well. But, as I said, while Kilgrave is particularly chilling as the villain, for me, he wasn't the character who I hated the most in this. I mean, you do get a sense he is dangerous, and you do grow to kind of hate him in a sense, but he wasn't the character I disliked the most. And I use the word dislike here in kind of very loose connotations, because the actress did quite well with this. But the character who I found myself kind of really not enjoying was Robin, played by Colby Minifie. She is shown to be the sister of another one of Jessica's acquaintances, Ruben. And when Ruben ends up getting killed partway through the series, as I said, spoiler alert, I'm sorry if you haven't seen it yet. When Ruben ends up getting killed partway through the series, she ends up hitting a dark depression and does end up attending a few of the Kilgrave survivors meetings. But then, kind of in the last few episodes, when Jessica seemingly finally catches Kilgrave and is kind of getting ready to end it once and for all, for her to just show up and start blaming Jessica for everything, I mean, you do get her points, but still, I was just like, no, don't do that, no, don't let him get away. But hey, that just happens. Now, I'd say my favourite scene, or at least, yeah, I'd say my favourite scene in the entirety of the first series comes from episode 4, aka 99 Friends. Anyway, to give a particular reference point, or to tell anyone who hasn't seen this episode, Jessica ends up getting hired by a woman seemingly to find her husband cheating. Only it turns out later on that the husband and wife are actually in on it, and they're not. She wasn't supposed to find him cheating, but they wanted to lure Jessica into a trap because they know that she is gifted, and they want to kill her out of revenge and vengeance for the wife's mother, who was killed in an event, which I'm presuming is the Battle of New York from the Avengers. To which, even though Jessica said, I had nothing to do with that, it's like, it's a preventative measure. I love it when Jessica manages to gain the upper hand. Like, she manages to knock the wife and husband to the floor, and then proceeds to destroy the room, including the window, the mirror, the doorway, and even part of the radiator rips up in her anger, and basically tells them that your parents died, join the club. My parents died in an accident, but you don't see me going after every bad driver, do you? Just keep your problems to yourself. And I love her kind of, I know that threatening isn't the best method for dealing with these kind of situations, but I do love her response to them, like, 99. You want to know how many others are like me? Last time I counted, I had 99 friends in this borough alone. And then warns them to go run, get out of the city. Just with how bad of an attitude these people had, it's refreshing to see Jessica go full on at them. I think that's great. But for me, I think my favourite episode overall was episode 8, aka WWJD. In this case, What Would Jessica Do? When, after kind of being forced to live with Kilgrave, Jessica ends up dragging him along to a hostage negotiation. Basically, a guy is keeping his family locked up in his house, and she forces him to be good, to which I love that kind of hero-villain dynamic where they work together to achieve a goal, even if one of them's reluctant. It's just David Tennant going, why would I care about this family? I was like, you have to. So I love it. Just to see him manage to defuse the situation and begin to consider maybe being good wouldn't be such a bad thing. But This entire first season, I think, is an absolute brilliant show. I've been on record with a opinion I've had for the past few years that Marvel has done the better movies, especially with the MCU, but I felt that DC had done the better TV shows like the Arrowverse. That though might be starting to shift. The main problem I had with Marvel TV shows for a long time was that, especially with this branch, like Daredevil and Jessica Jones, was that I felt you really had to kind of watch every episode through, because if you missed one episode, then you wouldn't be able to catch up again. It was one where if you missed one point, then you might as well abandon the entire show. But having sat down and watched it through, I'd say they're different. They're not. With DC shows, I feel like I could drop into any episode of Arrow or The Flash and have a good time. Just they're ones that you don't. It's handy to know what's going on with each episode, but it's not essential. With Jessica Jones, it is essential that you watch every episode, but then once you actually get that mindset, it's actually really good, and it's a really good show. I remember I kind of struggled through the first season of Daredevil, and then I never checked any of the other ones out. That's just me. But I feel Jessica Jones was a series I had on my wish list for a while, and I'm glad I checked it out, especially the first season. I will also admit I do love the final scene of the first season, where after finally dispatching of Kilgrave, killing him, Jessica returns home after being kind of released from prison, released by the police. She goes back and finds Malcolm kind of helping to tidy things up in the flat, in her office, which is a bit of a surprise given that he was kind of rather angry and depressed with her earlier in the episode, but it's nice to see him start to come around. Jessica sits down at her desk and starts to look through her voicemails on her phone, finding that several people have kind of called up after Kilgrave was killed, and they want to kind of hire Jessica for her services, to which she slowly starts deleting voicemails, possibly believing she's not worth it. However, as another phone call starts to come in, and she still seems unsure about it, Malcolm just walks over, picks up the phone, and says, "Alias Investigations, how can we help?" Which to me seems to say, we're not entirely back to normal yet. I'm still going to take a little while to forgive you for everything, but we'll get there. To which that's what it says to me, at least. But yeah, I'm nearly a decade late kind of watching the first season of this show, but I'm glad I did. Jessica Jones is one of those series that I didn't watch for a while, but I finally have. It's fitting that it has Kristen Ritter, given she was in the last show I binge watched in 2024, and she hasn't lost her touch here. So there you go. There's my quick thoughts on the first season of Jessica Jones. What do you think of it? Let me know down below in the comments. Anyway, until next time, see ya.